I love this film to pieces. I think it's one of the best films of the year, and I really, really hope that during award season it gets the recognition that it deserves. Do you want to say a little bit about where the story comes from and the inception of the project?
I had the idea that I wanted to write a relationship story that felt raw and intimate, where you feel like you're going home with the couple. I felt like you always feel like other couples are perfect and you're not that perfect couple. So I felt a sort of curiosity about what happens behind closed doors. I felt like at the centre there had to be some problem that they were facing together. I think problems that you face that sort of affect you both are really hard to get through because you haven't got one person who's the strong one. And at the time I was trying for a baby, not getting pregnant, and I felt like it was very taboo, wasn't really talked about. So I also felt like it was really sort of important subject for a film to be about. And I wasn't particularly... It wasn't in any way cathartic. In fact, I really didn't want to be writing about it at that point because I was kind of in the middle of it. And then... but I did think it would make a good film. I did want to make a film. So I forced myself to write about it. Then in the middle I had a baby, so that was good, thanks. And then made it afterwards with, yeah.
And Josh, tell us about the first time the project came to you. Did it come to you as a script or as an idea, or how did it come to you?
Yeah, it came to me as a script, and it was kind of very clear from the off that it was brilliant. And
okay, how do you know from a script? What do? You read it? Do you read it? How do you know it's brilliant?
Honestly, I actually have no idea. It's really it's kind of like something. It's the great myth of script reading. I'm not a brilliant reader, so I'm really dyslexic. So it takes me sort of 2 or 3 readings to kind of know if it's.
The scripts are hard work. I think
scripts are hard work.
Yeah.
I think that it's. I guess that a better answer is that. I can tell you how you know it's a bad script. Basically, I can't tell you how you know it's a good script. You can know when it's a bad script because, sort of, to use the save the cat rule. Do you know about save the cat?
No.
So there's a book about screenwriting called Save the Cat, and essentially there are a series of rules, and one of them is that within the first 10 pages you need to know whose side we're on. And if I don't know whose side we're on within the first 10 to 20 pages, I'm really struggling. Because you kind of just don't know where you're going. Anyway, so that's how I know it's a bad script.
Hang on, how does that become Save the Cat? What happens? Because I tell you, my version, there's a very early Steven Seagal movie in which it's established very early on that somebody is bad because they literally put a puppy in a paper bag and drop it out of a car. That's the bad guy.
That's basically the rule. Essentially, the reason it's called Save the Cat is they reference a film, I can't remember which, where with the kind of hero, sort of 8 pages in, saves a cat.
Okay, but in the case of Only You, there's not a save the cat moment.
Do you think it's just that you enjoy the story?
And yeah, I mean, ultimately it's that at the end of it. And from an actor's point of view, it's the character almost. I guess there's 2 things: there's the character and the story. But for me, for certainly with Only You, it was really clear that you are gunning for those 2 characters from literally from the off. Their interaction in that cab is so brilliant. It goes from a sort of a potential moment of conflict to them working as a team very quickly, and so you're just with them, and then that's really rare to have that from the off with a love story.
Harry, clearly the key to the film working is that you have to cast it properly and you have to get 2 characters you are going to believe in. Tell us about casting Josh and Laia.
Well, I cast Josh in a normal audition process, and as I proudly tell Josh, I hadn't seen him in anything, and
nothing at all.
Nothing, because God's Own Country hadn't been released. It was just on the cusp. I actually
very
was sent
good in that. He's very good in that.
I was sent a screener, but I couldn't get into the screener, so I hadn't seen him in that. So
when you say you couldn't get into it, you mean like you couldn't put the codes in? It wasn't like you couldn't get into it.
I just couldn't. I don't know. It wouldn't
It's
work.
rubbish. You couldn't get into it.
No, I couldn't get.
Nobody saved the cat, and it was just. Yeah.
I literally couldn't get the code to it. And Josh came into an audition process with some other guys, and what I think's really hard about the part is Jake is naive but also really emotionally intelligent, really charming, but not knowingly, and has to say really heartfelt things that I think are really difficult to say and make it not just sound like a line. Yeah. So actually in the audition made sure that I got them to do those very loving scenes, where I felt like the argument scenes in a way a bit more, I don't know, I think they're just easy compared with those really intimate sort of loving scenes, which, you know, Josh did amazingly and just had that right balance of. And also what's interesting is, like, you know, it's obviously it's not wildly different to Josh. It's not like he's playing an alien, but it is not Josh, you know, he's just shifting himself, and I think that's quite hard to do and quite interesting, especially when you get to know the character and the actor at the same time. And then with Laia, I'd seen her in Victoria, and she was amazing. So when she was suggested to me, she had like lists of actresses and just didn't feel right about anybody. But when Laia was suggested, I was like, yeah, just in love with Laia. I had this quite intense Skype with Laia because she lives in Miami, right, where she was asking me questions about the script, and it's always really difficult because I don't know if I'm talking to her and she's really committed, or if she's a bit interested, and then so I'm sort of trying to talk honestly at the same time as trying to sell it to her. So, but I could tell straight away that Laia is just very direct, isn't she? So, so a lot of the things were about the character. And
so was she cast before you ever actually met her in the flesh?
Yeah, but that's the thing about low budget films. You know, you can't fly somebody over. I couldn't get Laia and Josh together. It's sort of terrifying. Yeah. So how much time did you have together before filming started?
Well, yeah, that's. I mean, the only time you get on independent films is if you're really, really lucky, like we were, but. Asterisk. We were really lucky to have rehearsal, except that there was a storm in Miami, right, which meant that Laia couldn't come out. Hurricane storm. Yeah. Big storm. Which meant that Laia couldn't come out until
one day
before. Yeah. So we had one day in your flat in Glasgow.
Yeah, and that was amazing. Mad. I got them. I was like, right, just be good, just see you next to each other, hear your voices, just speak some stuff. And we did that scene the morning after the night before scene, and I remember Laia just kind of like sitting up on the kitchen counter in my flat, and the dynamic was just perfect straight away. And I remember her finishing just going, it's like he's a sort of breath of fresh air. And I was like, that's it. That's, you know, she said, I feel so light when he's here, you know, and just this feeling that she's, I don't know, she's just, he's already sort of so besotted, and she kind of knows it, and yeah, it's just.
Josh, how was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was like that. It was kind of this bizarre. It is always it's like that strange thing when people say, was the chemistry always there? And it's a sort of bizarre question because I don't know. You know, I don't know what the chemistry is. I think, generally speaking, if you've got two actors and a director who are kind of, in this case, three of us who know what the story we're telling, yeah, and get it, and that rare thing when you're on the same page, that's when like the magic happens. I mean, I guess that's the chemistry, and you don't know, do you?
But no, I think the chemistry as well, because people ask us a lot in Q&As. I think the chemistry is you and Laia inhabiting those characters. I think the chemistry is on the page. And then if Josh is Jake and Laia is Elena, then the chemistry is there because I've done everything I can to write to write the chemistry, I think.
And we were also, production-wise, we were very fortunate to. The majority of film was shot in chronological order.
Yeah, in the flat. Yeah.
Everything in the flat was shot chronologically. So that sort of has this impact where if Laia was in a kind of in a bit of a bad mood, or in a kind of, if she was feeling sad, I would get anxious because I felt a responsibility that we're a team and you want to help that person, and that kind of feeds into the film. So you end up being like this kind of support network for each other.
It's very intense. It was very
really
intense, wasn't it? And the first week was all the falling in love. We were 2 weeks in the flat. Yeah. First week was all falling in love, and the second week was all falling out. And then we headed for the nightclub, and that's when it all fell apart.
Oh yeah, we had a sort of half tiff, didn't we?
Yeah.
In real life.
In real life. Well, me and Laia had this book basically where we
was it the one about the cat?
Yes. Yeah. It's basically about a cat. No. We had this book where Laia would leave little notes as Elena, and I would. She'd leave it somewhere hidden in the flat, and then I would find it and write a little funny note and hide it somewhere else. Okay. Just a game. Yeah. Or either it was just a game. And there's the problem. So then we got to this final scene. Or like
you hadn't written in the book, Josh, had
no,
you?
well, I had written in the book, but what happened is I'd sort of... Well, because you hid the book and I couldn't find the book, and I wasn't actively looking for the book. I was actively acting in your film. I was doing my job.
But you know what?
I didn't realise is it was very much Laia's process.
Yeah, but also I think it all feeds in. Like, I think it's quite impossible to not... Because you and Laia were always in the mood of the characters, really. Like, in the first week, everything was very light-hearted. It's not like there were method, but really felt the vibe of on the set kind of changed. Yeah. I'm
sorry to be the slowest man in the room. So you did. There was a book, and you didn't find it. You didn't.
Okay, so I'll round it up. So basically, then eventually, Laia came to me in the scene in the nightclub, which was I thought everything was back on track. We're all good, but as Harry says, our moods shift with the characters. Yeah. Laia comes up to me and says, presents the book and says, "You haven't drawn in the book. You said you'd draw in the book. Do one of my drawings in the book." I said, "I haven't. I'm so sorry. I couldn't find the book." Anyway, doesn't sound like a big deal, but at the time it was a really big deal.
So how much of what we see on screen is improvised? How much is it script? If we read your original script, how close is it to what we're watching?
It's practically the script.
Yeah, it is the script.
There's little bits. Now and I've seen the film quite recently, and I did watch out for, but 10% maybe. There's little things that you.
I can't remember any.
It's very very
much
small.
The script.
It's the script.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was there an improvisational process, or was it always the script?
It was it was always the script, and then I changed a few little things, didn't I? When we were, sometimes I'd come and say.
Yeah, I mean, there might be.
It was more for information though. Yeah. Like I'd done one scene and I thought, when this cuts together, actually we need a bit more information at the front.
I guess the medical stuff, was that not improvised? But
yeah, the medical. There was real nurse and a real IVF doctor. So the nurse just did what she would do in a normal session, and actually afterwards when she leaves and Laia says, "I didn't get any of that," and you say something like, "It's fine. It's going to be all right." For instance, was improvised, but that scene was always going to be improvised. Yeah. And
So tell me about the Elvis Costello song, because the moment at which I loved the film from the beginning, but the moment at which I thought, okay, this is it. I'm completely sold here. Is he comes into the flat? It's the thing about the vinyl, and then he puts on. Not only does he put on Blood and Chocolate, but he puts on "I Want You," which has a huge significance for me anyway. But that scene is just genius. So how did that come about?
I think it's just I'm just I'm just the characters, I suppose, and so I'm thinking. I don't know. There's lots of. I love the song. I love Elvis Costello. It's timeless. It's dark, but it's sexy. That's what I felt like. It's dark but sexy, and it's not. it's not sort of schmaltzy, but
not at all.
It's edgy. I think then I instinctively just think this is the right song, and I kind of put that there as a placeholder in the script and think maybe at some point I'll go back and change it. But then every time I went back to it, I was like, it's perfect. And also it's hard to work out, like, but then I think it's so the character of Jake that he would. There's something about his taste in music. I think he's a little bit out of his time, and I think he's really into music. So I think he knows this stuff about Elvis Costello, and so it's a combination, really. And
did you know that song anyway, Josh?
I think I did. But I think maybe because we talked about it it was always in the script.
Yeah.
That song that's what I was saying to you earlier, is that it was such a treat, because more often than I'm always desperate to try and find a song that the director is like wants in their film, just because it helps me with atmosphere, helps me with loads of things. And it's great because actually sometimes they have an idea and it never ends up in the film. But this was always the song. Yeah. Which meant that by the time we shot that second scene, when it comes back, the nostalgia of it went beyond the making of this film. It went from the process of reading the script. It was like something that had been ever present with this film.
Yeah.
So when Jake is desperately trying to reach out to Elena and kind of... I guess shake her into realizing how special this is by using the trick of nostalgia. It had such significance. It was so emotional for Laia and me.
Did you improvise the dancey bit?
Yeah. Didn't I?
But you did. But it was the same every time. I mean, it was the same every time.
Oh yeah, once. I only had to do it once.
We choreographed it, and there were little things. I mean, it's my favourite moment. Josh's. Yeah, cool head move. But there was this thing. I remember things like, it's in the description. He reaches out and pulls her up, and then there were things that I wanted. Like I wanted him to hold her face. It's just like wish fulfillment, really. I wanted him to hold her face at one point, and a feeling that they would be coming in and out of between each other. So it's sort of like little things like that. So we kind of. I kind of give a bit of a guidance, then you improvise it, and then we sort of fix it, don't we? Because otherwise I can't edit it together. So
yeah.
But you're actually playing that record on set, so that means that you must have cleared it with Costello?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, just in the nick of time.
And how did that work? Did you have to send him a script, or...?
I sent him a letter. Yes.
Oh, you wrote to
Dear
him?
Elvis. Yeah, I sent him a letter. But he was amazing. Like, he didn't charge us, he made it affordable for us, and yeah.
Because he liked the script?
I don't know. Never hear back. I just hear yes. Yeah, I don't get a letter back.
Do you know whether he's seen the film?
I did actually. I recently got, not personally, but I got a DVD sent to him, so I don't know.
Because it is the best use of Elvis Costello in any film I've ever seen, and he has turned up in a number of films. But it is the most perfect.
I think
use.
he'd like it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, because it's brilliant, and he's brilliant, so it would be brilliant.
Yeah,
and then
brilliant.
I think we should all hang out together. We'd all get on really well.
Exactly.
I think that would just be great. That's actually what I want.
Me too.
Okay, so how long was the shoot? It was fairly fast that you did the whole shoot, right?
5 weeks. Yeah.
5 weeks for the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay.
It was quick, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was
really
intense.
Quick.
And you said you've talked about that, the intensity of what's happening in the. So presumably, if you're shooting it nearly in sequence, so you're doing, as you say, falling in and then falling out. What was the one would be inclined to think that about 2.5 weeks in, it would start to become very, very difficult, because that the thing is starting to turn from this bubble of something positive into something else.
So what was the question, Mark? Sorry.
Was that true? Is that what happened, or was it actually that the whole process was blissfully happy? Because I would think that halfway through it would become very stressful.
I think, what I think in a way that, like, I think for the crew, actually, I think it was I think it was quite hard for everyone to be in that flat for so long, and sort of this building level of tension. I think for me, it was really hard when they start to argue. I wasn't expecting it to be so unpleasant to shoot the scene of them arguing, and also it was really hard for me. They walk around the flat so much that it was really hard for me to find a space where I could be close enough to see on my monitor to have connection, but not be in the scene. So I ended up being in the bedroom, and then there's the bit where Laia Josh walks into the bedroom, and it was a bit like I was watching TV, and then the character came into the bedroom. It was very traumatic. But they did that. I mean, you did that scene a lot. And Laia, towards the end, she said to me, I said one more time, and she said, I'm really tired. And for Laia, she's got an incredible amount of energy. Yeah. But that was the one, that was the take.
Also, do you remember my voice went?
Yeah, Josh lost his voice, so that was terrible. Yeah.
That was really weird and kind of weirdly spooky, because it was like we had been pushing it and brilliantly pushing it to places and trying to find new and kind of challenging things about this scene. It's a really, as you say, it's like...
And it's really long.
It's horrifying. It's long. Yeah, one continual thing.
Yeah. And one continual take, and we're just following them around. And also that was very like, okay, let's just do the scene, walk where you want, no blocking. Now I was like, okay, let's just... That was great, let's stick to it. And it's really ambitious. I mean, they were,
Chabier, the DP, was exhausted as well.
Yeah, was exhausted.
Kind of following around.
But it was finding, like you say, just finding different ways of doing it and different levels of intensity. So it's like, how angry or how cool is it? And then Josh lost his voice, which is pretty terrifying for Josh, but for me. Did
you lose your voice did you lose it because you were so completely in the role that you were? Because obviously you're a trained actor.
Yeah, I guess when you're doing that, the whole point of being a trained actor or learning stuff on the job, however you get your training, is so that, in real life situation when you're shouting at each other with so much emotion, you only have to do it once, and we're doing it like 5 or 6 times, and the biggest problem is that when you are forgetting any training, you're literally shouting at this person, screaming to try and get a response, and so. I think by the end, when I lost it, and it was scary because it wasn't like that. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't speak. It just went silent. I was like, couldn't say anything. So, I think it was just because that final take. Do you remember we did this? We just decided, or we tried this thing where we were gonna come round, and when Elena gets on the sofa and is properly going at him. And I get right up in her face. And it was just something, I was just so upset. I found the whole thing so upsetting. Yeah. And I knew Laia was finding it upsetting.
Yeah.
And we were shouting at each other. And that must have been, I think it was after that Laia was like, I think we've done it all. Yeah. I just think it was a natural response.
But also I think there was something for not wanting to persecute the actors. I think for that, because sometimes I think it doesn't, about this, there's always, do you do lots of takes, do you do small amount of takes? But I think there's something about that argument, which in the description, it was like they're really spent at the end of it. They're so emotionally, sort of physical, when you've been fighting and shouting, and it's just so exhausting. So I think, I think pushing it to do it that many times also had some sort of effect on the performance, I think.
Can you remember the first time you saw it with an audience, and what was it like finally seeing it in front of an audience?
The first time I saw it with a proper audience was at the London Film Festival. It was amazing. It was amazing how much people laughed and smiled through the first half, and people laughed and then cried, which was perfect, and just feeling like you've connected and that people are getting your story. Was amazing, really.
Josh, did you know before that did you know how good it was?
I think so. Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm still trying to gauge it because sometimes I'll make or be part of a film and go, that was brilliant, and then it's rubbish. But I think it was just obvious that this is brilliant, and I think because of Laia and because of Harry, it just always felt like Harry knew exactly what this was from beginning to end. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes if there's, more often than not, in my experience, it's not very much, but in my experience, there's like that. Sometimes when a film kind of falls, is if the filmmaker has an idea of what it is, and then questions it too deeply halfway through, or like loses the nerve a bit. And Harry was never going to lose her nerve. It was like, this is the film we're making, and Laia and I kind of fed off that confidence. So I think, no, it never felt like. I think it was always clear it was going to be brilliant.
I think that's what that was what was amazing. That now I look back and think we were so lucky to have. There was just such a sort of trust, you know.
Yeah.
We didn't have time to get there, but we just fired in, and it just felt very like we were all on the same page. Maybe from having so many chats, I don't know.
Yeah.
But something about chemistry. I suppose you're sort of matchmaking. It's like a threesome in a way.
Weird threesome.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of other stuff that I want to ask you. I'm aware that if anybody has a question that you want to ask, don't let me sort of talk across you. Stick your hand up if you do. Otherwise, I'm going to just carry on. There.
Harry, Josh, found the film incredibly moving. Thank you.
Thank you.
I turned to my friend and said it must have been written from experience or shared experience. That really comes through. I think you said it was a taboo subject, so I'm guessing getting the funding was quite difficult. Is the film set in Glasgow because it was always meant to be set in Glasgow, or because that funding came first?
It was going to be set in Leeds. I'm from Leeds, and then the funding came from Scotland, so I moved it to Scotland. Yeah, I was happy to have it there. Yeah, thank you.
Glasgow works really well for the film, I think, because it's this idea of Glasgow is such a metropolitan and kind of diverse place. That it was like, it felt so right that actually your two leads aren't from Glasgow, that they're both kind of aliens in this. Yeah, this isn't their home.
And I think,
what I mean? So they create their home together.
And
they have to.
Co-producer was very happy that Glasgow is being shown as a sort of multicultural, vibrant city. But I loved it there as well.
Also, I mean, it's not a criticism of Leeds, but Glasgow looks. I mean, Glasgow is a fantastic-looking city.
Yeah.
I mean, Leeds is fine, but you know, Glasgow is really.
It is. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Anyone else? Yes, there. So.
I was really impressed by how. I mean, usually when you see a film and the romantic scenes, there wasn't the bit where you ask for her number or you followed her and say, "Hey, I want to walk you home." You skipped a lot that usually people would write in and keep. So, how did you gauge knowing how much you could leave out?
Some of it's in what we did in the edit. So, I was probably braver in the edit than I was in the script. And then it's sort of, I think in the script I kind of set up this feeling that we jump through time as well, because it was always like, well, how are we gonna get through time? And I really wanted it to feel like the audience was just catching up, and that I just felt like if we just jump, people would just go with it. So then, I think you're just always feeling it to think it's just you're just thinking it makes sense to me and. I hope it makes sense to an audience, but I did like it that you are kind of using it sometimes as a nice feeling of surprise, or that you know you've missed something, but it's kind of fun to see where they're at. I just think I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I met there's a writer-director who's got a thing on his wall which says, "Write without fear, edit without mercy."
Yeah.
Which that was actually quite a nice...
And some of it was in cutting it down to time. I was really without mercy. I was really like, I need to make the film that's a good film that makes sense, and then I'll cut it to time, and give me a week and I've done it. And I did chop stuff out, but also playing with that, I think, I felt like it's sort of engaging. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna unless I'm. Oh, there. I'm so sorry. There's a light shining in my face. I'm doing that. The gentleman there. Thank you.
Yeah, the chemistry in the film was brilliant. But what would you have done if that first night in your flat, if you had felt the chemistry hadn't been there? Because I don't know if Josh has got natural chemistry. Because in Only God's Country, the Q&As, they said there was a chemistry test beforehand. But I was just wondering what you, because sometimes the productions go on and there's no chemistry and the film comes out, and it must have been obvious at some point in these productions that chemistry wasn't there. But if that chemistry hadn't been there the first night, what do you think you'd have done?
Well,
sacked me probably.
Like I say, I think the chemistry is in the characters on the page. I think there is an essence, like what if they don't get on? But Josh, what do you do if you don't get on with someone?
Pretend, yeah. I mean, it's like, look, I do kind of have difficulty with the word chemistry, because I mean, maybe it's just because I just hold too much credence to my job, but I do think it's my job to make it, and Laia's job to make chemistry and to act it. And
it is
Laia and I aren't really in love, and therefore,
really?
Yeah, I know, mad. And therefore, I guess we did act it. Do you know what I mean? I think the chemistry thing is
a script,
and it's a script, and you've got a director who, in some ways, mediates and makes it work. And
exactly. I think part of it is, as a director's job, is to create an arena, a place where people feel relaxed and it's playful and there's trust and you don't feel self-conscious, and in a way you're kind of trying to tune into different people's personality to make sure that you're giving them the direction that they need or that they want. So you're contributing as well to that. But I believe it's in the script. I think, things like, when there's time they have sex when they're making the baby, and it's like they're saying "I love you" with your eyes. It says in the script, and do you know what I mean? There's what you think of as chemistry is it's acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think honestly, I think it's really encouraging to hear that, because I do think the thing is, if you're an audience, you invest in characters, and therefore you want to believe that everything about the character is true.
Yeah.
And yet, it's the Dustin Hoffman and Marathon Man, my dear boy, just act.
But I don't think that's belittling it either, because I do think I do think there is alchemy as well. There is this thing. I think it's so intense. I think you're drawn together. You're under loads of time pressure. I spoke to Josh and Laia like once a week, didn't we, for all of my pre-production? So about 6 times, I think, once a week. So we'd spoken through every scene. We all knew what the characters were thinking and feeling and wanting. And then, like Josh says, we're all on the same page and we're all trying to tell the same story. So I think there is a sort of there is a kind of a magic that happens when you're all really immersed in it, isn't it?
It's
it's not you're out of it just going, oh, it's just acting, but you're just all engaging in this story.
It's kind of, I mean, I love jazz, and it's kind of like in a jazz band, when you see improvised jazz played, there is just a kind of like an acknowledgement and a kind of beauty in the fact that they are creating something with their craft. They are creating something together, and it just works, and the material's there, and so you just make it work. And I think sometimes, if you see a jazz band, improvising, I always think, oh, it's magic. They must love drinking together or hanging out. But they probably don't. And they probably, at the end of the day, that's it. They go back to their actual social group.
I think that's a brilliant comparison, because that's it. You're all kind of tuned in to, aren't we? We're all sort of tuned into this same thing. And then, and there's lovely, like, little things that you do in, like, when Laia's got that little jumper that she's knitted and she's in the car and she shows it to you, and then she sort of puts her hand up like this and whap, 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 and then Josh kind of reaches over and grabs it or something. You know, it's like, it's not improvisation, but it's just that they're just really alive. They are, though, they're inhabiting those characters in that situation. And I think, and because we've talked so much, we there's nothing in the script they don't understand or they don't agree with or they're compromising. That's what I think it is.
Thing is, I mean, I understand, appreciate everything you're saying, but I'm still as the question raised. I still thought exactly the same thing that you did. What if on that first afternoon you gone, actually we don't like each other?
Yeah.
But no, I understand it's I've been told that we have to wrap quite soon. But if anybody else has anything else, stick your hand up. Otherwise, I will start. Yes, please. Let me just run a microphone to you.
And a man here.
Oh, where's that?
Just
Right, cool.
Hi, I was really interested in the cinematography. It was very, very close up and very intimate and very lovely. And I wondered how much you directed that, or how much the DOP was sort of doing that themselves. And also I wanted to ask Josh, how close was actually that camera to you when you were acting? Because it really did seem very up in your face.
Well, Xabier and I have about like 5 or 6 weeks together before the shoot where we're finding lots of images. I've done lots of preparation, so I kind of know what I want the look and the feel and the colours to be, and I know that I want it to be loose. And then what we did is we Josh and Laia I would rehearse the scene, and then Xabier would watch, and then we'd sort of, it was a bit like we were improvising together, I suppose. Like I'd have an idea sometimes, and then because some bits are very loose and free flowing, in which case he has to free flow. I can't direct, or but I might say I just really feel like I want to linger here, or the last time we did it and we went down to the hand, I really like that, maybe you could do that in a different way on this bit as well. So tweaking things like that. Other places, like I want the camera outside of the door in the corridor so you can see the 2 rooms and each of them, because I just know very firmly that I had this idea that you can see Josh behind the door and Laia is on the other side of the wall, so a bit of everything, a sort of synergy, and planning, I suppose.
Josh?
It is quite close, and it's worth saying that to kind of link into the chemistry question, that actually the dynamic between Laia, myself, and Xabier, the DP, is also such an alchemy. It's kind of the camera becomes the third member of that relationship on screen, and you have to kind of let them in.
Especially with handheld like that, I think.
With handheld, because Xabier is right with you.
Yeah.
And you start to, with good direction and with a good DP, you start to let them be part of it, and just, otherwise it's a bit freaky, isn't it? So,
I know we have to. Can we take one? Can we take the one more? Is that all right? We'll be quick.
Well, thank you for such a heartfelt and moving film. Are there any particular moments which still strike you as being particularly moving or affecting when you watch it with an audience?
I often see the ending because I come in for Q&As and I see them meet in the park, and I always find that I still find that moving. I find the moment. I found one of the moments I found on set really moving was when she looks out of the window when she's got a hangover and she hears the kids playing in the garden, and that was quite weird to shoot because I had the monitor where I could see Laia in close up, and I had the cans so I could hear the little girl, so I couldn't see the shot of the little girl because the camera's on Laia. But yeah, it was very moving, I think, to sort of hear that sound and be so close on Laia, and she's incredible there. I think, maybe the moment where she does the test in the bathroom and she cries, and her, I don't know, lots of little things. But I don't often watch it now. Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah, I haven't seen it for a little while, but yeah, for me, I really find the the credits bit when we're right next to each other singing really emotional. Partly because is it Yazoo Only You that plays?
It isn't, but that's what we played.
That's what we were playing the night we did that scene.
Okay, that's not.
And
what
that's
we're
one of
hearing,
my
is it?
favourite songs.
Yeah.
And so that was playing, and also that was the same day as Bookgate. And so it was like this moment of, were we good? And we were good. And we were listening to my favourite song.
That was my favourite
So it's
moment.
quite an emotional moment.
That's my favourite moment of the shoot. Was it was okay. I want to do slow motion of Laia and Josh, of Josh and Jake and Elena dancing to Yazoo, please. Yeah. And I didn't know whether we'd use it, but I think it's amazing at the end. Yeah.
We have to bring this to a close. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for
Thank you,
coming.
Mark.
Thanks for your questions. And
thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Aaron.